All right, here we go. We're going live again. All right, so can people hear me? All right, looks like we got some people on. Awesome. So if you can do me a favor, let me know. Can you hear me and can you hear the piano? All right, let me know when I hear that. And yeah, so today we got a quick one. Today's gonna be a short one. I'm gonna try and keep it to just an hour because I have a graduation ceremony to get to today. So very excited. It's my little sister. She's graduating. Super proud of her, and I'm gonna have to go out of town for it. So let's just dive right in, shall we? Let's remove this stuff. This is what we were working on last week, wasn't it? So I got a lot of really cool questions today. But the one that seemed like the most fun to tackle this week, for whatever reason, was just how do you deal with writer's block / frustration? So in particular, this was a question that I got on my Discord channel. All right, awesome. Real quick, can people hear me? All right, looks like there's a bit, the stream is a little slow. All right, I'm going to assume people can hear me. Oh, sorry, that's my alarm. Gotta turn that off. So where was I? Oh yeah, so the question was, how do you deal with writer's block? How do you deal with getting frustrated, trying to write something and nothing seems to work? And this is really important as a professional composer. All right, because I can't always rely on motivation when there are deadlines involved. In fact, for this current soundtrack, which I'm just finalizing this weekend, there was a cue that I had to write on an airplane. All right, I was flying out with my family for a vacation, and I got a text message from the writer of the play who said that they wanted to have a song for a certain thing. They sent me the lyrics, and so I had to come up with something that would work. And while I was on the plane, while I was out of the country, so you have to have methods in place to help with this kind of stuff, where you're not necessarily relying on motivation. So, and the answer to all that, because this is all kind of just a tangent, is you need to have a workflow / process in place. All right, composing is a skill set. All right, it's like a trade, just like anything else. Welcome. Okay, awesome. People can hear me. Alex, welcome. Tamashi, welcome. Debraj Day, welcome. It's good to see you guys too. A little update. The soundtrack is almost done, and I fly out to New York for the debut of the play on Wednesday. So I'm almost done with this, and once I'm done with the play, and I've done my job, then I'm really looking forward to coming back and doubling down on the channel again and being more active here. So yeah, just to say, more content to come. All right. So back on the topic though, how do you deal with writer's block and frustration? And really, it's just about having a workflow, a process in place. If you know what the steps of your process are, then you don't have to rely on motivation. You can rely on skill set. All right, because again, as a professional, or maybe if you're just kind of doing stuff with friends, but if you have deadlines don't wait for motivation, right? So to help you guys kind of understand kind of the depth of this, I figured I would walk through my workflow today. All right, so if I have zero idea of what I want to do, or just whatever I'm working on, I'm not coming up with any good ideas, and I don't feel inspired by anything, I'll typically do one thing, and I've talked about this before. Like, if motivation / inspiration aren't helping, you need to rely on skill / knowledge. All right? So even if I'm not feeling that I have a good idea for a melody, I need to rely on what I know makes a quality melody. Almost like a homework assignment. You got to treat it like a homework assignment. If I don't feel inspired, I don't have a character theme or whatever coming to mind, I have to think, all right, well, it's a homework assignment. It's due at this point. I'm just going to write something that I know works intellectually. So for me, this is a process. I start with a chord progression. Then I sketch a melody and repeat until I have X number of melodies. So say I need a theme for a character, all right? I need a theme for the hero. It needs to be a nostalgic theme. And I am just not feeling inspired one bit. I'll just say, all right, I need to start by coming up with a chord progression. And I'll start off by thinking of some things. All right, so valence. Like, how dark or bright do I want this? So basically, do I want this to be a minor key, major key, or something else. Maybe it's non-functional harmony. Triads or extended chords. So I'll start by going intellectual. Let's say I wanted to create a character for a Studio Ghibli type movie. All right, and I want something a little nostalgic for the main character's name. I want it to be sweet, but I don't want it to be overly heroic. So Studio Ghibli style character. What do I know about this? All right, nostalgic, sweet / innocent, not overly heroic. So on an intellectual level, think about just what I know. Nostalgic, for me, that means 7th chords and other extensions. And if I want it to be sweet and innocent, not overly, that should be overly, not overall, not overly heroic, I think probably working with a major key harmony. So here I've got my chord progression description. I want extended chords, and I want to be a major key harmony to work with kind of the nostalgic heroic sound. So let's write 3 melodies. All right. We'll write 3 themes. Let's start with the first chord progression, and we'll say, 80 BPM is about good. It's a nice neutral one. Let's go for 1. So major key harmony. Let's just write some quick major key chords. Then we'll do A minor. We'll do D minor. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. Then let's just copy and paste this. And we will just change the ending. Sorry about that if it's a bit loud. We'll just add a nice chord progression. In fact, actually, let's end on an A minor, a deceptive cadence. All right, so I used functional harmony to create this chord. Functional harmony to create this chord progression, and then something called the simple substitution reharmonization method, meaning that I went with a strong, weak pattern, tonic functioning chord, non-tonic functioning chord, tonic functioning chord, non-tonic functioning chord. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, it's just another pattern. Go to Tabletop Composer. You've got a couple different options here. Go to my Academy page on my website. And this class right here, Music Theory Harmony 1, Functional Harmony, 100% free class. All right? You don't have to pay for anything. This is my passion project. Completely free class made out of videos from my YouTube channel and articles that I've written to go along with it. Another option you can have to learn more about this kind of theory is go to my bookshop, and you can get this book right here. This is my textbook on composing. This book right here, 400 pages, 35 chapters. This was carefully designed by yours truly to go from step 1, where you know absolutely nothing about music other than you enjoy it and want to write it, all the way to the final chapter, chapter 35, where you are mixing and mastering your own professionally orchestrated music. All right, this is the ultimate guide. It was my goal to create a one book that will teach you everything, basically kind of like a music school substitute. It's very guided. It's very structured. Every chapter builds on the previous ones. It's one of the things I'm most proud of creating, right? So, all that to say, we have a basic major key chord progression. That's my chord progression. So then, to make this more nostalgic, all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bunch of 7ths. I'm going to extend all of these chords. Honestly, I could probably throw in a couple 9ths if I wanted to, but since we're not too worried about making this, let's make this a 6th. So basically, to make it more, I had the major key harmony, because I knew this was the heroic, like the main heroes type theme, but I didn't want to be overly heroic. I want to be sweet and innocent. The major key is a nice bright key. It works for both. But what's going to make it a bit more sweet and innocent and less heroic is making it more nostalgic with 7th chords. And again, you'll learn more about this in the book and the free class. But just adding those 7ths. Right? Already sounding way more nostalgic. And since I said we were going to write 3 of these, let's just kind of continue on with another one, shall we? Let's do C major again. This time, let's do G major. Let's just jump right in, shall we? Then we'll do E minor, then D minor. So it's like kind of a downward moving pattern. Then we'll copy and paste this. We will, let's turn this one into D minor, or let's just do F major. And then we'll do from F major, we'll do, let's do, we'll come down to E major, C major down here, and then we'll just do D major again. So now we've got 2 chord progressions. And again, I'm not overthinking things. I'm just going based off the intellectual levels. I go, all right, I need a major key harmony. I'm just going based off my knowledge of music theory. I'm using functional harmony to just create a quick chord progression. I don't care what the chord progression is as long as it works on an intellectual level, because I have writer's block and I'm not worried about trying to be motivated. I'm trying to just create something that works on an intellectual level. All right, you don't need motivation if you have skill. All right, so long story short, get good. And if you want to get good, again, free resources on my website, the Academy, 100% free. And then I have lots of cool ebooks that you guys can show support with and level up your games, right? I also teach private lessons. But let's see, a couple comments here. Oh, too much. Let's go, Alex. I haven't been able to write a song in a week. Oof. Yep. So yeah, I would say this is a good process for you. Just don't overthink it. Don't worry about trying to write something good. Just write something that works. All right? And then once you've written something that works, that tends to help you get past your writer's block. Okay, Deborah, hey bro, have you ever written something for pre-written lyrics? I was trying it to compose for lyrics and my friend wrote, I just could not get the sound I wanted. Any tips? Oh yeah, my entire soundtrack right now is basically a musical. So all of the music I wrote was accompanying pre-written lyrics by my wonderful lyricist friend, Darius M. Buckley. He's also the playwright. So my trick is, again, like most of my areas of music, start with the chord progression first. If I can find a chord progression that works well for me, that I like the general vibe it gives off, I find it's way easier to come up with a melody to go with the overall lyrics when I already have the chords. For songwriting, I tend to actually play it out instead of using the pencil tool. So I'll use the piano as my chords, or I'll use my guitars. I'll use something to kind of play along, but start with the chord progression first. That's what I would recommend. All right, so then, okay, we've got our major key harmony here. Let's add our sevenths, because we wanted this to be a nostalgic kind of sweet sound. G, B, D, and then we needed an F. We'll do a 6th chord again. So now we've got our new chord progression. Right, so chord progression works. Now let's do our 3rd one. Now I know I'd say let's work with major key harmony, but because I feel like being a bit more adventurous, and because I know 7th chords neutralize a lot of the preconceived kind of notions, so it makes 7th chords make major chords sound a little more nostalgic, and they make minor chords sound a little, again, brighter. So let's do 1 in a minor key. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do. So we've got A minor, D minor, A minor, C major, A minor, E major, and A minor. Pretty dark chord progression. Now watch what happens when we just turn these into 7th chords. So we go A, skip B, add C, skip F, D, add E. That makes our triad. We're going to skip F, which is the next note in the scale. We're going to add G. That's how you find your 7ths. And then we'll go. And so now we have. again, 3 nice chord progressions. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to voice lead each of these. And so I'll start again by doing what makes intellectual sense. I'm going to just pick all my roots and I'm going to drop them. I'm going to drop them an octave to make the bass line. And so then, once I got my roots, I'm just going to voice lead these notes up here as if they were triads. Voice leading just means you're going to smooth them out. You're going to try and create as little movement between one chord into the next. With the exception of being... no. Sometimes you don't want to have too much parallel motion, but since this is smack dab in the middle of the chord progression, I don't care so much. It's almost like having a 4-chord chord progression and then another 4-chord chord progression. But let's drop this one down. So now I've got that one nice and voice led. Let's get this one up here actually. Then we'll drop this. In fact, actually, let's raise these up. Actually, drop that here. And I'm not doing serious voice lead. I'm not trying to do anything overly academic at the moment. I'm just trying to smooth things out a little bit. And then, boom, voila, we have 3 chord progressions that, again, work on an intellectual level. Because I have writer's block, and I'm stuck, and I'm frustrated, and I can't write anything that sounds good to me. I'm focusing on just writing stuff as if it was a homework assignment. I'm writing things that I know from my level of skill and knowledge as a musician is actually technically going to work. It might not be perfect for the character, but it gets me creating something. And so let's listen to these chord progressions real quick, shall we? Let's lower the velocity of these bass lines a little bit. Last one's a bit dicey, probably because of the F and the E. So what if I did F sharp? A little bit better, I like that. Has lots of momentum. Raise the velocity of these chords just a little bit. Then chord progression number 3. All right. 4 decent, not the best I've ever written, but decent chord progressions, right? So, having a workflow process. Step 1 was starting with a chord progression. And the things that I ask myself is basically what valence do I want? How bright or dark do I want this to be on an intellectual level? If I'm writing a character for a Studio Ghibli style main character, I know that I want to be nostalgic, so I'm going to use 7th chords. And I want to sound a bit more sweet and innocent, so a little brighter. So I'm going to focus on major key. Although we did try that 1 minor key chord progression, it worked pretty well. So the next step is I'm going to sketch a melody. All right? Now, I have shown this process so many different times on this channel here. So all we're going to do is we're going to follow sentence structure or period structure. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick 2 notes from the underlying chord. So with G and B. And then we're going to pick 2 more over here. Let's do C and A. Actually, no, I tend to follow this kind of up and then down pattern quite a bit. No, we'll leave it. All right, so we've got my main motif. So then sentence structure would say repeat the same basic shape. So we'll go G, and then we'll jump up to C this time. And then we will do, we'll do another C. And then A again. So same basic shape, little variation. Then we need to come up with a new idea. So let's go up to E. And then let's come down to, we got E, let's do C, back down to C, down to A, and then up to C again. So we're repeating a lot of C's here. D, and then so we've got our first 2 bars, form a pattern, repeat the same basic pattern with a little bit of variation, come up with a new pattern on the next 2 bars, and then finally we just find a way to kind of end it. What chord did we end on? We end on an A. So let's find, we want to end here on A, and we're just going to walk our way down. So now we've got a basic little bare bones melody. Nice. Ending on a little kind of crunchy thing. Y'all are being super quiet. Does anyone have any questions while we go through this? Like, no comments going on. That's fine, because I gotta kind of make my way through here. But so we've got the frame of the melody for the first one. And again, because I've got writer's block and I'm just trying to crank out a bunch of ideas to help break past my writer's block, I'm just going to start cranking out another uninspired intellectual melody idea. So I'm going to move over here. Let's again follow the same pattern. 2 notes from our underlying chord. This time let's move down. And then we got, let's go, G, B. What's this one? This is G, B, and then we'll do D. So this is our new shape. We're just picking 2 notes from the underlying chords per each bar until we have a 2-bar shape. Then I'm going to basically repeat this same shape, but make some adjustments so it can fit the new chord. All right, that's fine. This one's going to need to change, so let's go to F, or A, and then C. And then we've got our main pattern. We've repeated our main pattern with a little variability so it can stay over the new chords. Now we're going to create a new idea. And we're going to go, and why not just repeat that A to create a new chord idea. And then we're going to basically just find a way to end, to get to the end of our chord progression. So we're going to go with C here on the last chord, because the last 2 bars are your cadential bars. You don't need to do anything fancy. They don't need to be all that interesting. They just need to find a way to end it. So if I want to end on C, I'm going to say, let's just do B, then D, and C. So a double neighbor tone. That works. And then the last third intellectual kind of melody idea that we need to do, let's do period structure. These both have been sentence structures. So establish an idea, repeat the idea with a bit of variation, create a new idea, then find a cadence, a way to end it. Period structure, same basic components, just different order. Let's do period structure. So come up with an idea. The idea of these period and sentence structures isn't that they're cookie cutters or that they're rules or laws. They're more like musical grammar. So the way that you naturally learn the language that you grew up speaking, your native language, there's a certain order that the words tend to go in. Even if you can't describe it, even if you don't know the grammar, like, oh, the subject goes before the verb or whatever, you understand that there's a certain order those words go in. Otherwise, you end up talking like Yoda. So music is the same. There are certain patterns we like to hear. There are certain order of ideas that we like to hear, even if we aren't aware of them. Certain orders that make them sound musical. Sentence structure and period structure tend to be some of the most common in modern Western music. It's in like Western European classical kind of tradition. So G, then C, then let's do... So this is my new pattern. All right. Period structure says you have a new pattern. In the next 2 bars, create a brand new pattern. So let's do A. We'll do C. Then we'll do B. So created a new shape. So then period structure says, hey, let's repeat that original shape. But again, this time making sure it fits over the new chords. So let's do D. So this is more like this shape, but it's the same basic idea. Actually, let's see. Do these chords have anything in common? They do not. Actually, no, they have E. They have E in common. So let's do C. And then we'll come back down to B. To B. So again, this one looks closer to this one now. And then because I need a new peak. Wait, what's going on here? Is this only a 7-chord progression? This is only a 7-chord chord progression. All right, that's my mistake. We need to create something new. Let's bring these over since that's my cadence. So this is A minor 7, D minor 7. Then we have A minor 7 again. Then we have E minor 7. Then we have A minor 7. Let's do D minor 7 again. So then we're going to need to do... So then we need to find 2 new chords. C, the original actually works well. So we'll do G, and then we need to come up with an A. Oh, so awesome. So yeah. Oh, duh, makes sense because the same 2 chords, A minor and D minor. So we got the same exact pattern. That's fine. Let's find a way to end it. We'll go D, B, and then is this an A minor 7? We'll go in A minor. So then we've got our basic idea. All right, awesome. So we've got our basic melody sketched out. So, No asks, which of your playlists should a beginner watch first, or in what order should they watch them all? Very good question. For my playlists, I would actually recommend, I've shown this resource already, but my playlists were all made one at a time. And so they're all good. They're all great resources. I stand by them, but I reorganized them into these classes, which you can take for free. I would recommend taking each of these classes, again, 100% free. There are 0 hidden costs. This is my passion project. I was not able to graduate from music school because it was too expensive. And so now I've got a big old chip on my shoulder about how much insane money it takes to actually get a music degree. So I put together free classes. I would recommend start with Music Theory and Harmony 1. Then do Music Theory and Melody 1. So start with Harmony, learn everything you need to know to write effective chord progressions quickly. Then learn all about writing melodies. And then from there, Orchestration 1 to learn more about instrumentation. Or if you're not really interested in writing orchestral music and you just want to go straight to arranging, Orchestration 2 is fine. You can skip the first one. Just go to number 2. It's all about arranging and applying the knowledge you learn about each of the instruments. All right, so that's the order I would recommend. Then on my YouTube channel, there's a whole bunch of stuff. If you want to learn about film scoring, you can check that out. If you want to learn more about templates for writing specific Hollywood-type styles of music, I've got stuff like that too. But these, if you want these fundamentals, I would recommend it. Also, if you have the budget and you would like to support your boy, check out my textbook. It will teach you literally everything you need to know in a very carefully structured approach created by yours truly. So you can find this here, and if you want to learn more, I probably shouldn't have exited out of this, go to Bookshop. It's this one right here. If you want to see what is in the table of contents before you potentially purchase it, it's right there in the link. Follow it. You'll break it down. You can see the exact workflow, everything you're going to learn. All really cool stuff. All right, 35 chapters, over 400 pages. This is one of my passion projects. I'm very proud of this book. I really, really am. So I've gotten great reviews from it. Wonderful people sending me messages. So thank you, everybody. And yeah, right now I could use the extra money because, like I said, I'm flying to New York. New York is not a cheap place. I'll be flying out there on Wednesday. I will be in New York City for 5 days. So if you are in New York City, let me know. I actually would. It'd be kind of cool to meet up with some people. But I will be in New York City for 5 days. I'm showing up 2 days early for the premiere of the play to help me at the last rehearsals to kind of review and give feedback on how the music's being done, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to be there for the first 3 performances. But awesome. So now that I've gone through, I've created the basic frames for each of my melodies. The next step is to add rhythm. So let's make that a bunch of order notes. And then there we go. So that's my rhythm. This was sentence structure, so we're just going to repeat the rhythmic idea. We're going to create a new rhythmic idea. And then we'll just end it. And so then, you know what, let's just finish this one up. Now let's go through and make the rhythm of each of them. So then this is another sentence structure. And so we're just repeating the same random rhythmic idea. I'm not putting too much thought into this. I'm just creating rhythms. I've got a rhythm for my first 2 bars. I repeat the same rhythm for my first 2 bars. Then I repeat. I create a brand new idea for my 3rd bars. And then the end, I just find a way to end it. And since I like the double neighbor tones going into the C, so the note below it, and then the note above it, and then arriving at your note, those are called double neighbor tones. And they're very satisfying. And then I'm going to just basically come up with another random rhythm. And then we've got this one idea, and then this is period structure. Remember, so period structure goes have an idea, create a new idea, then repeat your original idea. So I'm going to repeat my original rhythm here. And then I am going to create a new rhythmic idea there. And then I'm going to create a new one there. So now I've added rhythm to all of my frames. And again, I'm not doing this creatively. I'm not doing this out of motivation or inspiration. I'm doing this purely out of an intellectual level of what makes melodies work. I'm going completely based off music theory because, again, I'm struggling with writer's block and I have no idea what to write for this character. So I start off with just an intellectual approach of what could potentially work. Because the idea is if I write a bunch of ideas that could potentially work, and then I take a break and come back the next day, and I re-listen to what I wrote, chances are at the very least one of them is going to inspire something cool. I have used this trick so many times in my career. Anytime I have struggled with writer's block or just had a very quickly, rapidly approaching deadline, this is what I'll do. I'll say, all right, I need to come up with this character theme because the director's expecting to hear it tomorrow. I'm going to crank out 10 melodic ideas. Then I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to play some video games. I'm going to go talk with my mom on the phone. I'm going to do something to take a break, have a meal, take a couple hours at least. Then I will come back, listen to my 10 melodies, and wow, oh my goodness, melody number 4. I like this one now. This one, for whatever reason, because it works on an intellectual level, is now inspiring me. I'll make a couple tweaks here and there, but boom, suddenly I have my character's theme. And I show it to my director. My director's like, this is amazing. How did you perfectly capture the character? It's like, oh, well, because I knew it would work on an intellectual level. You cannot rely on motivation, inspiration, or feelings. They are wonderful. They are amazing. Believe me, when I feel inspired by a soundtrack and I'm just kind of working on it and it feels amazing, that is awesome. That is wonderful. That is not going to get me the job paid though if I'm just if I'm trying to get to a lesson, to a timeline, a deadline. Given the choice, I would always prefer motivation and inspiration. But on the days where I don't have it, I need to have a process like this so that I don't get fired, right? So now that we've added rhythm to each of these, the next trick is to basically take some of these shorter notes and just find a way to bridge them. All right, so Studio Ghibli, or at least Joe Hisaishi, tends to use lots of repeated notes. So we'll start with 3 repeated notes, and then we'll come down, and then we'll kill that momentum a little bit. Let's see if this works. Let's see here. We'll do an A here, a couple repeating. We'll do a walk up again. And we'll do, oh, yeah, G's natural is fine. So let's mute this raise it an octave, put the metronome on, and see if I can actually play this. I'm not a very good piano player, so bear with me. I was doing so good. I should have raised that an octave. Let's see here. Let's do an E here. I like the idea of leaping up and then down. And again, at this point, now because I actually am getting a little inspired, I want to workshop this. I like the way this is sounding. I feel like I don't think it's there 100%, but I feel like there's something here. I feel like I could come up with a good melody if I workshop with it, if I play it around with it a bit. So you get to see how this is working in real life. All right, when you work with something intellectually, like, oh, hold on, I want to kind of play around with this. I feel like I'd create something interesting. Like if we get this C minor. My keyboard is too small. I feel like I would want to leap up. Okay, so yeah. Anyways, at this point, I'm getting carried away because I have inspiration now. So you can kind of see how this process works, hopefully. And because we're running a little low on time, I'm not going to worry about fleshing out these ideas because I wouldn't in real life. If I were trying to do this for just the sake of trying to create an idea, to get inspired, to get past writer's block, and I found that the first melody actually inspired me, I'd say, all right, nice, awesome. I don't need these anymore. I'm not going to delete them. I might mute them. I might move them to a different track because you never know. These might be cool secondary characters themes because I haven't even started to play around with these yet. But if I feel inspired now by this little idea that I came up with, even though in this form right here, I don't think it's ready. I don't think it's fully manifested yet into what it could be like this. But I feel inspired. I like it. I know there's a nugget. There's something here that inspires me and makes me want to keep working on it until I have something I do like. Right? And so that's the whole point of this process. So next time, as a summary, next time you are dealing with writer's block and frustration, you need to have a workflow in mind. You need to have a process, all right? Something that can get you going, all right? Music is a skill just like any other. An athlete who doesn't feel like working out still goes to the gym to train because they have a program to follow. As a musician, as someone who is highly skilled with your own craft, you need to have the same thing. So if you don't have your own, feel free to rip mine off, all right? Start with the chord progression. I have so many different strategies for making chord progressions. I am positive I could create 100 chord progressions in less than an hour. All right? Because this is what I'm best at, is chord progressions and melodies. So start with a chord progression and pick an arbitrary number. Typically, I go anywhere from 5 to 10 if I'm working on an actual project. Once you've got that, start with a character description of what you need, almost like a homework assignment. All right? What are you trying to write? What is supposed to be written? And for me, I usually start with kind of like a valence. I basically just description. What basic mood do I want? Do I want it to be dark, bright, or something else? If it's dark, it's going to be a minor key. If it's bright, it's going to be a major key. If it's something else, something in the middle, I'll probably use extended chords or other things. If you want to learn a lot more about emotions and music, I do have videos on the channel. I've got blog posts, but I also have a book right here. This is the only book out there written by a professional composer who was formerly a therapist. Yours truly. This book is based entirely on why music actually evokes emotions in people from a psychological standpoint, and then specifically, how do you actually apply that? How can composers pick any emotion that they want to portray, and how do they flawlessly translate it into music? That's this book. It was originally based on my class. if you want to check out the class. I have not taught this class in a while, unfortunately, just because I've been so busy with the soundtrack. But if people are interested, I might reopen it once the soundtrack is done. If there is enough interest in the class, I might do it. But if not, there's always the book, right? But anyway, so start with the chord progression, then sketch your melody. I have a video. If you don't want to do the class, if you don't want to commit to a full class, my YouTube channel, I have a video. You can go right here. The Ultimate Guide to Writing Melodies. This video right here will teach you everything you need to know about this process that I showed, where you just write one very quickly. And then once you have your melody, again, you just repeat until you have X number of melodies. And chances are, while you're working on an intellectual level, while you are working on a skill-based approach, you're going to find something like this, where the very first melody, I wasn't feeling inspired at first, but as I started playing around with it, I'm like, oh, there's something here, right? So awesome. Hopefully that answers your question. We've got about 20 more minutes. What do you guys want to talk about? Because I'm going to only stay on for an hour, because like I said earlier, I have to leave in a bit to go to my little sister's graduation. Very excited about that. All right. No, that's really kind of you. Thank you. Well, definitely. Oh, awesome. Thank you very much. Tamashi, okay, but can you show something for dealing with writer block in the middle of a piece? Ooh, in the middle of a piece. Smart. Okay, so that is tricky. So if you are working with the middle of a piece, same process. All right, so what I might do, let's say you've got this piece right here. You're finding good. What I would probably do is I would save this as a separate file. So I have had this. If I'm stuck with this actually happened in my most recent soundtrack. I was working on a piece of music. I was working with the lyrics from my lyricist. And I was putting it together, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't working. The arrangement wasn't working. So what I did is I saved this as a file, and then I saved it as a different file. So I can't remember which one. I think it was like, maybe the title was like Dance in the Rain, but it was something. It was something where it was like, no, it wasn't Dance in the Rain because I didn't write the melody for that one. That was the lyricist actually had a melody for that one that he wanted me to use. So which one was it? It was something. It was one of the songs I had to do for the current soundtrack. That I'm working on, and I was struggling with it. I had found most of the idea, but I just wasn't making it work. So I saved it as a new file. And in that new file, I was allowed to delete, I was allowed to work with whatever I wanted, and again, it was the same process. I figured, like, what step am I stuck on? All right, I'm looking on arranging. All right, I am no longer approaching this as an artist. I am approaching it as a craftsman. Whatever step I am stuck on, whether that's assigning instruments, or whether it's coming up with the textures, or it's coming up with the structure, it doesn't matter what process I'm on, what step of the process. I am no longer thinking like an artist. I am thinking like a craftsman who needs to get this done if I'm going to eat and pay my bills. So, and that's what I do. I say, like, awesome, let's remove my ego from it. Let's remove my desire to create something beautifully and artful and just focus on a skill-based level. So if I'm stuck on arranging, for example, I can't figure out what instruments are going to work. I'm going to go, all right, intellectual level, what have I used with the other pieces? All right, I've used strings, choir, and some synths. Awesome, that's what I'm doing. All right, so this one, strings, choir, synths. All right, what's the structure? It's an AABA song. All right, so awesome. Let's just say the B section is going to be the highest energy. So I'll start with B, and I start just treating it, like I said, like a homework assignment. And honestly, like again, once you start removing your ego from it, removing that desire to create something, the next best thing, the pressure is off, and you're just able to work off skill. And you'll be surprised with how quickly a cool idea shows up. Okay, so then Debraj Day, hey bro, like you said, I also had created a chord progression. My friend asked me for a sad song, so I used minor chords. But when writing for lyrics, I couldn't get the way I want. Ooh, so that's tricky. Any suggestions for what I am doing wrong? Actually, this is basically what I just said. I think what you're doing wrong is you're overthinking it. I'd say 7 times out of 10. 7 times out of 10, when someone has writer's block, it's because they've set the expectations too high for themselves. They're expecting to write something from the heart, which is awesome. This is technically writing from the heart because anything you write can be written from the heart. But you have this idea that it's supposed to be perfect as it comes out. So if you've got the chords, it's just not working, I would say just start with your first chord. Like an A minor. If it's an A minor, just hit the A minor on your keyboard and just start singing your lyrics. All right? Come up with an idea like... And then what's your next chord? Whatever, I'm singing off key, whatever it is. But the idea is like you start with that intellectual level again. All right, start with your lyrics and start with one chunk. All right, your first chord, how do those lyrics naturally come out of you? How do they naturally like fall off the tongue? All right, what rhythms do you tend to find? Don't overthink it. Just allow yourself to go chunk by chunk. The very same way I did with this. Remember, I started right. I've got a shape. I got a 2-bar idea. Focus on that. What is your first idea? What's the first chunk you have? All right, awesome. You've got that. Move on to the next one. If it's sentence structure, you're going to repeat the same basic idea. And this will be inspired by the lyrics. If your lyrics have the same rhythm, the same kind of number of syllables, the same kind of basic locations of accents, then that will tell you, all right, awesome. So if it's the same kind of thing, then yeah, I'm going to repeat the same basic idea, maybe with a little different changes to fit the new words. Then, oh, this next line of the stanza has a different number of syllables. It has a different kind of accenting pattern. So I'm just going to give it something else. I'm going to come up with a new melodic idea. Like I said, if you are stuck and nothing is inspiring you, focus on what you know. Focus on the skill of it rather than the inspiration of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, my recommendation to you is if you have a chord progression and you just still can't come up with the melody, focus on just a line or two at a time. That's what I did for this soundtrack. I had write for guitar because the actors are going to be playing guitar on stage. So I'd start with the chord progression and I would just strum my first chord. I wouldn't worry about the next chord. I would just strum my first chord and see what comes out. How do I like to sing the melody over this one chord? Then when I feel like, all right, I did my first line and it works on this chord, the next line I'll do my next chord. Or sometimes I'll feel like, all right, sometimes it needs to go faster than that. But you kind of find the rhythm of it. Maybe I'll do a songwriting workshop at some point. I'm sorry if this isn't very helpful. Because at this point I feel like I'm just repeating myself. But hopefully it helps. Tamashi. Or strategies for balancing the old with new for a piece. I'm watching your videos on CLV6 and Waltz de Fantasia, but I would like to go through. Ooh, that's a good one. So yeah, my old learn by listening videos. Or how to seamlessly blend with articulations of an instrument, like how to go from collegno to spiccato or short harmonics smoothly. That depends. These are topics that would require a little more preparation ahead of time. For the moment about swapping seamlessly through the different articulations, that tends to be mostly a question for how well you know your library and how skilled your players are. Typically, I would say if you want a dramatic change in personality, it should be reflected in the structure. So if you are changing dramatically, like you're going from a very lyrical, lush kind of idea to now much more choppy, rhythmic based, it should be reflected by a change in theme. So like you went from the A section to the B section, a new melodic idea. But otherwise, I would say don't overthink it too much. Lots of people need to give themselves permission to try new things. That's fine. You don't need to have a reason to do stuff other than you want to do them when it comes to music. Deborah Day suggestions: too many minor chords, borrow chords from the main. Oh, awesome! So Deborah Tamashi's giving some tips. If you don't want it nostalgic, you major. Okay, awesome. So Deborah Day, Tamashi, thanks Thanks for your suggestions. I will definitely try. Awesome. So hopefully that helps. Loser Dubs Winning Club. How do you know when you can comfortably go outside the key or scale if you say you were jamming on a piano solo? I can't figure out when to let those little non-key bits in. All right, so if you were talking about a melody, the going out of the key, it's tricky because if you are jamming with a band, it takes a little more skill and a little more understanding between the musicians. If you are just jamming for yourself, you can use a chromatic tone anytime you want, as long as it doesn't line up with an articulation. So by an articulation point, I mean these. Notice how in the chords and the melody, we have multiple notes that start. They are articulated at the same exact time. So if I were to do, that works well. However, if I were to do G sharp over the same chord, it would sound crunchier. Because this G sharp forms a dissonant interval with this G here. However, if I were to stagger them ever so slightly, notice how now it sounds a little more chromatic, it sounds dark, but it doesn't sound crunchy. Or if I were to ever make this a little more closer, no, that sounds kind of nice. So it depends on the chord. But this is just kind of a basic rule in counterpoint. And again, if you get that textbook, you take out my classes, you can learn more about this. But I have a video about this. Counterpoint made simple right here. You can just look up my the topic and then my name. You're going to find this video. This video right here will teach you all about it, and you'll understand a lot of rules about why certain notes tend to work and why others don't. Like I said, this tends to be a bit trickier if you're working with a band and like a group of people, because then you all have to be on the same page that you're going to be playing around a bit. But in general, you can use chromatic tones basically anytime they don't clash with other notes that get started at the same exact point. So generally those tend to be off beats instead of the on beats. So if I had the chord, that works fine because I didn't switch chords. But if I were to try, if I were to re-articulate the chord each time, you'd notice how that sounded a bit more crunchy, right? I'm not sure if that helps or not. I am getting very thirsty at the moment. I should have refilled my water bottle. Let's see here. So loser dubs. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, I would say watch that video, and that'll help at least understand a little bit about why certain notes sound crunchy and others don't. Because the whole point of counterpoint is the ability to write multiple melodies that can be played at the same time and not sound crunchy, to actually sound like they go really well together. A lot of people talk about how counterpoint is an incredibly complicated thing. I actually had a professor tell me that I couldn't teach myself counterpoint before. And if you want true blue academic music theory from the Baroque period type counterpoint, then yes, that is incredibly difficult. There are so many rules that you probably can't really teach yourself without some guidance. I bet someone could, but I couldn't. But if you want just more of a modern approach, where all you need is 2 melodies, or 3 or 4 or even 5 that can be played at the same time and work, then there's only a couple rules you need to know. At the bat, that's the big one, is anytime 2 or more notes get articulated at the same point, they should form a constant interval. That's really the only real rule. All the others are just kind of suggestions. For example, having rhythmic independence between each line helps quite a bit. Having contrary or oblique motion, again, helps quite a bit. But again, if you want to learn those, check out the video or check out my book, which again will teach you everything you could possibly need to know about music theory. 400 pages, 35 chapters. It is designed by yours truly to start you in chapter 1 with zero knowledge of anything other than you like music and would like to write it yourself. And it goes all the way to, like I said, chapter 35, where you are successfully composing for orchestra and making your sound libraries sound realistic. All right, awesome. Got time for a couple more questions. Let's see, Tamashi, show this session, Oh, I can't, unfortunately. So, Tamashi, I unfortunately cannot show any stuff from the play because the music, and so Tamashi is asking to see, I believe, the choir session for recording for my music. Unfortunately, I cannot show that because my music is not entirely my own in this one. Like I said, I'm working with a lyricist, and so I need permission from the lyricist to do that too. And right now we're kind of focusing on getting everything out first. So in the past, I have done live composing streams where I've written music for soundtracks in front of you guys and answered questions. This time it's been different because, again, I'm working with someone's lyrics. I'm working with someone's words, and I need to be I have to be respectful of my collaborators. All right. So unfortunately, I will not be showing anything from the soundtrack just yet. And the plan is, once the play is done, once the debut is done, to share the music then. But we'll see. It depends, because we've got some people coming up for the play. We'll see if it gets picked up by another theater. If it does, then we'll have a bigger budget. We'll be able to work with some more musicians. We'll get to touch it up, and then it'll just be delaying the music a little longer until we get it completely how we like it. Good job. How much is the book? Tell or outline the broad steps mixing which you do. All right, so the book, $60. $60 for an ebook. Hopefully I'll be having physical copies soon, eventually. But $60 for, it's like, what, like a little under $2 per chapter. And if you want to see if it is worth, especially in terms of the price, this is a really good price for a textbook. All right, I've got books on my back shelf, but that I spent over $100 on. That weren't as valuable as this one. If you want to look it over and see if this is worth considering. Again, just highlight this. I don't know why they wouldn't let me make a actual link. Put it in there. Table of contents. You can see literally everything written down in here. It'll tell you every single little thing that you're going to learn in the order you will learn it if you read it from cover to cover. And again, these are all I wrote every single page of this myself. There are no ghostwriters. There are no collaborators. This is 100% me. I've had it peer reviewed, and that went really, really well. But this is just me, just writing it. So it's my type of teaching. It's my approach, my style, which I know a lot of you guys like. So check it out. Well worth the price, I have been told by many people. So awesome. And again, purchases right now are greatly appreciated because, again, your boy's going out to New York next week. And New York is expensive. I've paid for the plane ticket. I've paid for the Airbnb. Now I need to pay for all the food while I'm there for a week. And all the other things I'm going to need, like the metro passes and navigating and all stuff like that. So let's see here. Why don't you tell or outline the broad steps and mixing what you do? Where are you going and who is in graduation and what subject? All right, so I will share a little bit of details, but you guys know I don't like sharing too much personal information. I like to keep my personal life a little separate unless I go on a tangent somehow because I have ADHD and that happens. But I'm going to my little sister's graduation and I'm very excited for her, very proud of her. And she graduated with a master's in education. She's going to be a teacher. She's following in my mom's footsteps. So very proud of her, very excited for her. Awesome. So thank you very much, everybody. I think we'll call it there, shall we? All right, I hope this stream was helpful. Next week, unfortunately, there will not be a stream because I'm going to be in New York. However, I will be active on Instagram, taking lots of pictures, maybe doing some like live Q&As on Instagram stories. So follow me at Tabletop Composer. That's gonna be really fun going to the premiere. And yeah, check out the books, check out the free classes on my website, check out all that kind of stuff. I will be back in May. The first stream will be in May, and we're going to have another cool lesson. All right? So thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice day. I will see you all in 2 weeks. All right? See ya.